buddy?
Hey, Kelly, what's up? What's up?
Oh, not a lot.
Yep.
Just kind of mixed feelings today in our paranormal family. You know how it goes. So,
Yeah. So me and Kelly have been talking, and with a festive heart, we're doing some things with, for Kelly, and then the birthday show and so forth, and then we, as you all know, today, um, we awoke to an extremely just paralyzing moment when we found out that Scott had passed, Scott Grunwald. And, I called Kelly, and we talked, and Kelly had known Scott as well and had some great times. And I'd had situations where I had some great times too, but I did add to a post that was there today that, Scott was a friend. I mean, he was a mentor. He was uh, almost a comedian. He was a rock star ukulele musician. He,
yeah.
he was a teacher to so many with, the paranormal and how he was just able to bring laughter to times when people were like, "Oh my god," and just like, "How can I not laugh now?" Um, so many people out there have their own little story and things with Scott, and most of us all get back to the fact that there were so many things he was, but at the end of the day, Scott was the person who would send you kind of these random hello.
Yeah.
Um,
hmm
or he would just say, how are you doing? And then you'd answer. And then he was just like, I love you. He would just put a little thing that says, I
Yeah.
love you. And, and then I'd say, oh, I love you more. And he goes, nope, I love you. And there's nothing you can do about it. And I had many times I was down with things that had happened in the paranormal, and he would lift me up. He would be like, just don't worry about that, Keith. You've got some great things going. You're you're an up and comer. You out there with people. You're shaking and moving, and um, you're gonna do fine. And so I realized then, I was like, this is coming from a guy who's known in the paranormal as a legend to a lot of us. He's been around on the TV shows. I think he's been on Ghost Adventures. He's done some other projects. He's been to countless Paracons. I met him at the Salem Con years ago. I was there. So many people there that were the talent. And Scott, he kind of just took me in. I sat down next to him, and we were investigating an old bar inside there, and man, we had some activity. And he would, do that again. Let us know you're here, and it just he had a connection with that, and so,
Yeah.
um, we'll take some time. We'll take some moments on here for those
Yeah,
of
if
you,
anybody has like a really good story, I've
you know,
seen so many memories recap today
yeah,
on
yeah,
Facebook, and every time I open it, it's just I remember a few months ago, the
yeah.
most recent stories I have personally with Scott, just taking some time to honor him here, the first little bit of our show, but he video called me. This was probably, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 months ago. And he was with Jeff, and they were in the grocery store, and they had other friends with them, and they were meandering around, and they were just FaceTiming me to show me the grocery store and tell me what was there and say hello. And it was so sweet. And you're right. He's just like the king of random messages. Every so often, he just send me a message like, we've messaged most recently within the last month. And he would just reach out and be like, "Hey, Cal, how you doing? Can't, hope you're doing well, and hope to see you at the bash because we're really trying to make it into the next bash." Um, and it was he just had that charm and charisma, and he was super fun, as we all know. And we definitely wanted to honor him with and speak of his memory for the first bit of the show. And we all were hoping for different results from his health scare and situation, and sadly, he's now passed, and we will all have fond memories of him. I mean, there wasn't a memory that I saw mentioned that wasn't including fun and joy, and I think that really spoke and continues to speak to his spirit in that way. So we definitely miss you already, Scott, and we're very, very thankful to have known you and interacted with you, and I'm sure that will continue. Knowing his personality, I'm sure that
Knowing his personality and
yeah,
the kind of the fun-hearted, lighthearted trickster
yeah.
things. And I always, I think my thing with him was known that was I would say, "I love your hair," and I would put a picture of a flock of seagulls because
Uh-huh.
as you well know, Scott, he was laughing, didn't care. He was like, I'm too old to care. He would have purposely. You would see him if he did FaceTime you, and his hair was straight up and over, and he was like, "Hey, so how's it been going?"
Yeah.
And you're like, "Oh my
Uh-huh. Yeah,
shock!" He had a shock value humor.
he did.
Um,
Hmm.
just
And
uh,
we were really, really sad that we couldn't reschedule him. He was supposed to be on our show, and he had a pet emergency the time he was to come on our show. And so we had hoped to reschedule him. And then with the way things went health wise, we weren't able to line that up. So I know that he's chiming into all our paranormal family and friends posts today ethereally because there's no doubt in how much he was adored, and I'm really glad that I get to see everybody's fond memories with him on his
yeah,
their
and
Facebooks.
and we'll continue. We'll continue. I mean,
Oh yeah, absolutely,
you know,
absolutely. Yeah,
it,
and thank you. Hello to everybody in the chat.
yep.
We have John and Robin and Brandon and
Philip Casey.
Bill and Amber, and it's so great to see you all. Thanks for chiming in on our show. I'm gonna get festive now, okay? I don't have a
All right.
party hat, but I have my
So
little
we have our Kelly's birthday.
so my birthday's not officially today. It's Friday. And until after 40, I didn't make a big deal of my birthday. But now it's like, why not? Because you might
Yeah.
as well, right? So
So how young are you?
I'm over 40.
41, 42, 43. Um,
But it's not till Friday, and I figured it'd be fun to do, an open paranormal Q&A because
yeah, just
we love our guests, but we have stuff that we know too. So
what was the show
you know,
created for, right? We had that in it by the theme of talk, and
yeah,
obviously, and Kelly is talks to a lot of people with what she does with um, you know her gift, and I ramble with the tech with the idea of that being a tool for me to reach out for the spirits we visit with. So that's what we do, and so it's and I assure you, if there's something you ask and we're like, what, we have a boatload of friends we can just reach
oh
out
yeah, if we don't know the answer, we'll definitely
or
refer you.
somebody that can
Yeah, yeah,
reach out. But
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was hoping, if any, I mean, so I'm practicing on the social medias. Okay. And I'm not, incredibly, I don't think Brandon Johnson's in the chat just yet. I didn't see his name pop on, but I'm not him when it comes to like TikTok and stuff. But I've been trying to like see what some new segments would be on those bits of social media. And so one of the segments I started was things that I've learned from a lifetime of reading for the other side. So I kind of share some of the things that I've learned from Spirit over this
I
time.
wonder
And
if we can reach out and give Brandon Johnson a little, shout him out a link and see and let him give us a little
if you don't
info.
follow Ghost Guy Brandon on TikTok, you should. And he's getting a plug, and I don't even think he's here.
Yeah, he.
So this is not paranormal. I was the one to specify paranormal Q&A tonight, Keith. But what's your favorite kind of cake? Ready, go.
German chocolate is
Okay.
You know,
German
German
with the
chocolate.
coconut icing on the top.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of and John makes a good one. Oh geez, it's no wonder I'm whew, it's a heaven. You slice into it. This is so
It's not a cake for me. I like ice cream cake or ice cream or cookies. I'm a big ice cream and cookie person. Not a huge cake fan. If my mother's watching, she always insists on cake for birthdays. And I've told her over 40 years, no cake for birthdays. She's finally starting to get it. Today I stopped by their house and she sent me with two, like a huge buffet tray of this Halloween party mix, Chex Mix type stuff she makes. And so that was my birthday cake type thing. And I prefer it. Mom, forever.
Well,
and forever do it.
You're blessed to have all that for sure. What was the little thing you make? The little chocolate somethings that you said you make, and I was like, oh wow, I want to have some of those. Something you had made.
I don't know. I like to cook and bake. Tracy, so one of the things, she asked what I learned from the other side. So one of the things that I learned, I mean, there's a whole bunch. I actually do a talk on it. I know it's hard to imagine me talking for like an hour, right? It's hard to imagine, but it actually flows. Makes sense. But anyhow, so I could go on and on about the things I've learned, but one of the things that I have learned is that when we're on this side, this is probably one of the bigger things. We try to define so many things about ourselves. So we try to define what religion we are, who we love, how much money we have. We have to have these. It's almost like in our human psyche, we have to define these things as some sort of status or goal that we've checked off. And on the other side, those things don't matter. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the way that I read by seeing and hearing and receiving message intuitively. I don't use cards or anything like that. I've been this way my whole life. And one of the big things that I have learned is that whatever divine it is you believe in, because I take religion out of what I do when I read. So whatever divine it is, when it's our turn to the other side, those things aren't as black and white and defined as what we try to make them. Religion is rarely mentioned. It's if you're a good person or if you had some things that you had to struggle with and learn from. You have, as far as loves, people can say, oh, this is my second love is here on this side with me. They refer to that. They don't say who they married or what they sometimes specify for their loved ones. But what I'm trying to say is we are so seemingly set on determining these things, and money's not mentioned at all because you can't take it with you, and stuff is just stuff. And I hear that from Spirit all the time. But the things that we really try to define on this side are not at all a care as clearly black and white on the other side. And I just think I wish people, in sharing some of the things I've learned, I hope people allow themselves to live their lives more like that, because that's how I try to live my life more now from the lessons I've learned on the other side versus having to wait until I get there. So, I think we need to focus on being good people, and that's what matters and counts.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the bigger things that I've learned. But thanks for asking, Tracy. And I have started to share them. Let's put up that question. So cards, I assume you mean like tarot cards and things like that. I teach a psychic development class, and I use particular cards for that to help practice psychic skills and sending messages. If you're talking about tarot cards, and those are safe as far as I feel, because you're using your own energy. Okay, yes. Tarot cards, you have to, just like any other holistic health practice, you have to trust who you're going to and their intention. I always say you should, kind of feel your way around. You may experience more than one type of reading or check out more than one type of person until you find the person that you're really comfortable with. But it's just like getting a massage or a Reiki session or anything like that. You're letting somebody into your energy who has no right to know what they know. That's how I explain it. So therefore, you have to be comfortable with their intention. So I have a few very dear friends of mine that I love and appreciate and ask them to read my cards for me. And I can send you their names, Tracy, if you're interested. But you have to trust the people. And I really love people who explain it, because where I work in visual symbols and auditory symbols, they work in symbols of the cards. But it's really using your own energy. So I think they're, in all, a safe tool. You just have to feel comfortable with the person who's helping you with that, if that makes sense. Have you ever had your cards read, Keith?
No, I don't think I've never. I've been to a lot of places, the shows and everything else, though, and I see people, and they've even asked me, and I'm just like, nah, I think I'm good.
Yeah. I mean,
know.
I say it's like any reading, Tracy. You have to. I say the purpose of any reading is validation. So once you get to the point that you want some validation from the universe or your loved ones, then's the right time. So if you're not sure, or you feel a little cautious, or you don't really, you're like Keith, just kind of like, yeah, it's okay, never mind, then it's not the right time. So,
but yeah, I think it's a matter of trust. It's seeing the person.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that you're gonna be around and so forth, or it's gonna have the session. And if it's someone that you're just like, no, I don't, then it's now somebody like yourself that's very warm, inviting. You get this spirit of kindness. It's totally different. But I just see a lot of people that I think, in my own thoughts, are doing it for the wrong intentions, and it's it's like going to Vegas. They're like, step right up, come on up, I can tell your future, and it's like, no, you can't. You have any idea? And then they start obviously with leading questions. So tell me about, and I'm like, I'm telling you the answers, and then you're starting to get.
But here's the other thing, buddy. What you're saying. Here's the other thing. The other thing is, kind of like I said about validation, you have to be willing to receive it. Right. So like I had a client one time, and I have very beautiful clients, but I had one gentleman one time who his wife had come to me, his daughters had come to me, and he was just like right in the door, and he was a grump to start with. And he, like, my past healing space was like a spa. It was all green and white and pink, and it was very relaxing. And so he came in, and I had these like zero gravity lounge chairs, and he sat there, and he was gruff and grumpy the whole time. And so I said to him, sir, what do you need to relax? Like, do you want to take your shoes off? Do you want a cup of hot tea? Do you want a cup of hot coffee? No. And I said, then you need to relax, because you're blocking your own messages. So you have to be willing to receive, and then things did improve as the session went on when he finally relaxed. Right. You also have to be open-minded and not have an expectation, because until the end, he said to me, well, I said, did any of this make sense to you now? And he said, well, yeah, but, and I won't ever forget what he said. He said, well, yeah, but that's not what I wanted you to tell me. What I wanted you to tell me was this, and this. And I said, sir, no offense, but I don't make shit up. Like, I'm telling you exactly what Spirit's telling me. So you have to be willing to receive what you're meant to receive at that time.
And that's what it was. Is that it's a it's a visual thing. And I had it to where it was with a person that I came out, and I was like, no, I was like,
And
I
if you
guess
don't trust them, that's okay. There's a reason
yeah,
that
and
you,
that's why I think it's
yeah.
if you do have somebody that you can trust and know and have that connection and you ease into things and you it's inviting. But if they're coming up to you and clawing at you and saying, "Come over here, I'm gonna," I'm learning, or I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
Okay, I'm not sure if Robin's still in the chat. So Robin, he doesn't have to make the noise when I ask this question.
Oh, the noise. Here we go.
So Robin, you call it out first. Don't let him. But no, I was going to ask you, Keith, have you something I thought about today when I was thinking about questions people ask a lot of times. Have you ever firsthand experienced a cryptid? Now you did in Canada, right? When you were in Canada?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Any other times that you experienced that?
Um,
Like any other types or anything
I had
like that?
something that while I was hunting one time in the woods that didn't look. It certainly looked out of place. I was up in a tree stand up by a tree, pretty well camouflaged, and I don't think anything from the ground level could see me. I was up above them looking down, and pretty well hidden with my camo, and something that was not even very like not very even tall. Um, Came up from like the little rubbish of the ground, came up over this little log,
Uh-huh.
scurried down around it, and looking around, and then went down like it seemed like there was a little hole in the wood, and went down and kind of went down in it, and then I was like, it wasn't a squirrel, it wasn't, to me it was like it looked. I guess you could say it was like a giant, as far as size wise. A praying mantis is about that big.
Uh-huh.
This looked like about a hand sized big praying mantis
Yeah.
that came up and scurried up
Tracy, right? Yeah.
and then went down. It was crazy.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
and I think, and I ask that because a lot of right now, due to the way the world is, I believe, um, I've had a lot of interaction with different types of non-human entities and cryptids and things like that. So it seems like there are a lot because I do think that um, kind of veil is a little thinner
mhm.
as the earth and the energy of the earth knows that we kind of need some support as humans and we're ready for some of those experiences that are new to us. And so I've definitely had a lot more experience with cryptids or non-human entities, even in cases and investigations. And so I always think that's fascinating. And Tracy's remarking about minks because in our area last night, 7,000 minks from a mink farm got let loose, and so they are now running amok in the town over. And that's what so well played, well played.
So
Tracy.
they probably got down out of in the woods, and they're gonna
Yeah,
live.
they've been everywhere. So, and Tracy, I don't want to skip your last question too. I know that Keith has talked about this too, that he is a believer in this. But I definitely am a believer in this. And one of the questions that I ask spirit during a session, when their loved one is there with me, is often, who welcomed you when you transitioned to the other side? And they'll tell me their friends or family members, kind of who that was. Sometimes I'll mention pets, uh, things like that, and people like that. So I think it's interesting because what they and who they share are some of the people that when I relay to their loved one, oh, they said that it was, these two people, their loved one often says, oh, yes, they were talking to them not long before they actually passed. If
Yeah,
they're able to communicate, that is. Spirit who isn't, who was maybe on in and out of consciousness or passed, on a ventilator as opposed to being able to fully communicate. Um, they'll also share that, but you may not know who it was. But I am a believer that they do
yeah,
communicate with loved ones, and our loved ones do show us. And oftentimes, if in a reading, they'll even ask, or remark and say, they were showing me glimpses of the other side before I even passed. So I knew who was there and I knew what it was like.
Yeah, Kevin started talking about. Uh, he's asking his wife, "Are you going to help get me on this white horse? You got to help me. You know, Keith's there. We have to go. You got to." And then 2 days later, he was in the hospital, and so they had told us it's going to be here within a couple hours.
Yeah.
And but as he was there, and he started asking, "Hey, can you can you do you see that door?" And he's like, "No." And he goes, "Well, you know." And he asked John. He says, "Well, you know, I bet you can't open that door." And and then we were looking at each other, and I said, "Kevin, is Dad there? Do you see Dad?" He goes, "Yeah, he's there. He's there." And so it's very possible. And then it was just he talked a little more, and then he kind of looked around the room and just, and then he turned to me and Dana, which is like we were right at his right side, and he just kind of looked at us and just winked with his right eye, and then just took a good strong breath, and then he just passed. Just right just right then. I mean, it was like that, and I knew that he had passed, uh, and it just peaceful. But that was him leaving, and within days later, 5 or so days or whatever, I was able to. But I previously had talked to Kevin about, I'm going to talk to you, and he laughed. He said, "What are you going to do? Call me on the telephone?" And I was like, "Well, I guess." And then as days went by, and I said, "Kevin, were you there? It's your brother." And then I sit there and waited, and I hear Keith a real loud, like, "Oh." And then I said, "It's Kevin, it's your brother, it's Keith, I'm calling you." And then I hear, I know, on that telephone.
Mhm.
So he said to me what he said when he was alive. He said to
Mhm.
me, well, after he passed, and it was my brother. It was no doubt.
Mhm.
So he's there with my dad and my mom and my nanny Bailey, and so he's at peace. You know,
Yeah.
so that's a good thing. It's nice to know that our family is in a beautiful place. They're not sick anymore. They've got a new body, and that's a beautiful thing.
And pets too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, people ask about their pets, and from my
there's a little
experience with,
a little rainbow bridge.
yeah, they our friends and family members take care of them and love on them until we get there and are reunited, and that's really beautiful. And they still interact with the current pets. They'll come back often and visit. Um,
People
and Tracy,
people say
that's
they see them.
interesting about your dream. I'm sorry, what'd you say, Keith?
People say they see their little pets running around. There's been
Yeah.
people who have taken pictures or even videos, and they're like, "Look, that's my dog," and I'm like, "Well, sure looks like a dog to me."
Yeah.
So that's a good
Um,
thing.
Tracy, about dreams too. I've had that question come up a lot lately from uh, different clients and asking about dreams. Dreams have been really off the wall right now, and anybody who's sensitive or has sensitivities, not only are people kind of purging all the things that are no longer serving them right now, but and that can happen subconsciously through dreams, as we know, but they are also really symbolic and really feeling of the world's energy right now. So a lot of people have had very detailed dreams, weird dreams. But then when kind of digging a little bit deeper, I mean, sometimes they're just weird. Sometimes weird dreams are just weird, and that's the end. But other times they actually have some really unique meaning to them. And with the way the world is right now, it seems to just amp that up for a lot of people that have sensitivities. So it makes sense. And very intense. Like your comment said, it was scary. It's very intense feeling. It's either like really happy, euphoric, very scary, very sad, but it's a very high and low. And it could be even changing throughout the dream. Like one part is really intimidating and scary, and then it gets a little better. So, yeah, and that's interesting about that. the idea of an incubus. And I would definitely, I know you do this, but I would definitely cleanse yourself and your space and ground and center. And I'm not saying that there's anything in there. It's just to reset for you. I know you do that anyhow. So, but I think it's a good idea. It's a good idea. So what do you want to know, buddy?
Oh my goodness. So what Friday is coming up,
Yeah.
and you've got people that are probably going to be coming to your birthday. But if you could pick one person,
I have no idea how this is going to end, everyone. I just threw it out there for him, so I have no idea what he's going to say.
If you could pick one person
Uh-huh.
who is, I mean, wearing their clothes when they get to anyway. No, if you could pick one person,
Uh-huh.
who is in heaven now that you would like to see be at your party on Friday, who would it be? Who would it be?
Okay.
And why?
Wow. One person who's in heaven right now that would be at my party. I have to have a party first. So if I had a party first, okay, hypothetically, I have a lot of friends and family members on the other side. I really do. So to pick one would be kind of tough if I'm picking a friend or family member, but I would pick my past golden retriever, Logan. I'd love to see him again.
Okay.
And sense him more. So I think picking one person would be hard, but
I would love you picked a pet. Now you can pick a person. You pick.
I can pick a person. Tracy's suggesting a mermaid party with Starbucks because she knows me so well. Where is that party? I want to go. That sounds amazing.
I can see the party and everybody's mermaiding it. And then there's Starbucks buffet up there just with every kind.
The Starbucks is first, followed by the adult beverages later on.
I could. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
one adult or one person that
I don't know if I can pick. I don't know if I can pick one. I don't know if I can pick one. Just one person.
Well, yeah, you it came down to it. You're kind of thinking.
I mean, I would love to see. All my grandparents have passed, so I would love to see any of them. They sometimes come through in dreams. So, and Tracy says tons of glitter. So that's going to be my sign. Like that's going to be like if you sense me many years from now and I'm on a different plane, it's just going to be, I'm just going to leave glitter everywhere. Like just random glitter on places, especially on like in vehicles and places.
Random glitter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I would just totally do that. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yep, that's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
Yep. And I'm going to like out my smell, I think, because not everyone, I wear the same perfume all the time and not everybody knows what it smells like. So my smell would be just coffee. Like if you just smell coffee out of nowhere.
A coffee smell?
That'd be me. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, Kelly.
Well.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I can see. Yeah.
It's true.
It's true. It's very true.
That's right.
So did you give a person? Did you say who it would be?
Yeah, I mean, I would be happy with any of my grandparents that wanted to come through.
Grandparents Central, here they come.
That's right.
Walkers included. Wheelchairs allowed.
Chad, I'm glad you made note of that because that's exactly what is going to happen. So I knew you were looking out. Yeah. Robin says.
Robin's got the.
See? Right. Exactly. And certain spirit, like I don't remember readings. Over the course of my life, I'm just a conduit for readings. So for spirit, so I don't remember the information. But there are certain clients that I've had a long time. And when a particular spirit comes through for them, they always give me the same smell or the same visual or the same feeling. So it totally makes sense that you sense that person in that way. And that's really special that it's your dad, because our loved ones are some of the very hardest, from my experience with spirit, they're some of the very hardest for us to sense. So they may come through in like a dream visitation, or maybe you might hear their name on equipment when you're investigating or something like that. But to have an experience like you're saying with your senses with that person, they're some of the hardest people to feel, because we have an emotional tie to them. So we're emotionally close to them. But yeah. Oh, that's sweet too, with paint. Tracy's says her grandfather was an artist and she gets
Paint dinner.
dinner. Mm-hmm. Yep, that's really sweet. Oh, yeah, it's amazing. I mean, my grandma, I don't know if my parents are watching tonight, but my mom's mom, my grandma, when she first passed, and she was my height, and then she shrunk a little bit. So we were like really teeny tiny together. And we would give the best hugs. And she always smelled like this particular type of face powder. And it was just like this certain cosmetic face powder had this scent. And I would get that for a while. And her husband, my grandpa, had a particular cologne, and we would smell that quite often. So I think that's really special to be able to sense that.
I get that for sure, and I can vouch for that. I get a lot of people that when I give hugs that are always complaining about, Keith, you got your face powder on me, but they're not too upset because they say it smells really good. So I was like, okay.
That's true. Yeah.
Flip is telling us that your dad is.
Yeah, he's probably watching Ancient Aliens. They knew that we had the show tonight, and I'm fairly certain Ancient Aliens won tonight.
Robin Kill.
So Kelly, let's read your comment. Oh, I don't know if if your whole comment came through, Kelly. So we only got part of it. Yeah. But I do think that you can receive divine knowledge through dreams. And I also think that, from my experience with spirit, our time of dreaming is a very comfortable time for us to have interactions with our loved ones, and quite possibly some more of the questionable beings, like what I think your comment was getting to. So it is a time to be aware of what's happening. And I mean, the idea of, like I said to Tracy, the idea of like grounding yourself or cleansing your space after a dream, that's okay too. It doesn't have to be like a physical interaction or investigating or anything like that. So the dreams like that are really disturbing, from what I could tell from your comment. But I'm glad I appreciate you sharing your story.
Yeah.
Well, busted. They're not watching Ancient Aliens. My mom just texted me. That's hilarious. And in her words, no smartass, we're watching you. That's what her comment was. Thanks,
okay.
Mo. Yeah. Tracy, this is a great question. And I love that you want to know these things, because this is what I hope for. Because of that emotional connection. Also, because that's the same reason why, from what Spirit has relayed, that if you have a dream and you're about ready to hug that person and you wake up, or you're about ready to talk to that person or yell for them and you can't get their name out, they have to maintain that boundary to let you know that they still have passed. Because if it was hyper realistic and that visitation was really a graphic memory for you by the time you woke up, sometimes it would just disrupt your whole day. If it was something that was going to come up and you lead by emotion, or it's going to be a high stress day, when you've had that really just realistic experience with your loved ones, that's the hard part. So, and if you'll notice, I know too, like from what Spirit has told me too, it's like a cyclic thing. So you may notice a lot of signs or symbols from Spirit at first, or not for a while, but then they could be really intense for a while, and then it gets quiet for a while, and then it's really intense, and then it gets quiet. So, the people that your friends and family members are always around you, but some are closer than others, much like guardian angels and spirit guides and things like that. And some are closer than others at different times when you need them. And signs and symbols change as well, because if you're not getting what they're sending the first time, they're going to maybe switch it up and send you something else. So it's for emotional protectiveness sometimes. Other times too, again, from my experience with spirit, if somebody passes of an illness that's really drained their energy, like a long-term illness, before they pass, it might take a little bit longer to get a sign or symbol or visitation from them. Doesn't mean they're not there. It's almost like they have to recharge their battery, I say, on the other side, before they can come full strength through for any of those things. So you may sense them in little ways, but they kind of rest and regroup that energy a little bit before coming through clearly. So, and also time is of not an essence on that side. So we look at it like, oh my gosh, that person passed months, years ago, and I can't wait to hear from them. But that's calendar time is irrelevant on that side. So we have to kind of keep that, in mind. But yeah. So, yeah. How about, what could be the scariest thing that you think, Keith, that you think that you could ever encounter? Like, what would be the scariest thing? Like for me, my dad, since I know my parents are watching, like my dad he's so interested in aliens. And to me, I'm interested, but that's a completely different, like, consciousness to deal with than like ghosts and loved ones.
Right.
So that's like a completely different intelligent being system. Right. So to me, that would be more of a challenge to deal with than maybe some of the regular things that I deal with. But how about you? What do you think would be?
I guess if you were, you see these things about these Bigfoots, the killer ones that are in certain places, and I would guess as if you were out, trying to do investigating and for them, and you're out there in some way, and God knows you stumble across something, and you're right on top of it, and it it ends you. It just grabs you and breaks you in half and drags you off to the den to have for den with the kiddos, the kiddo Bigfoots. So I mean, I often think about, as much as I love and respect the things we do in this field of all cryptids, the paranormal, just the unknown, the unknowns. We don't always have enough respect to just stop and think that these things could, an alien could just vaporize us, Phasma vaporize us, a Bigfoot snatch us and just break us in half. Tracy talks about the demonic possession. I mean, God forbid if you're in there and it is something that's dark and something happens to latch onto you in some way, and then you come home, and the next thing you know, this thing is in there, and it gives you hell until the point where it's knocking on your doors and causing you grief. And so there is so much out there that can potentially get you, that you've got to really have your head on a swivel, thinking about what the risk and gains are, and then stop and think, man, this is a huge risk. Like we need to be careful. This is like, what the last guys they investigated here. What? You didn't hear what happened to them? There's a blood trail off in the woods, So you gotta. That's the thing about
Robin. You are absolutely right. Well, they definitely. Humans scare me more than anything I can think of that's not human.
That's a given.
For sure.
I mean,
for sure.
they're out there, especially well,
This is my dad. My dad. Can you see? Can you see?
yeah, I see aliens.
That's right. Thanks, Dad. I had
Um,
to crop it out for you, but that's
yeah,
his
look
weighing
at
in on
when you talk about this. The scariest thing is, Robin, is we talk about the humans. I mean, it's scarier that some of the ones who are supposed to be the 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 ones kind of being our support for this world is we've really got issues with. So thank God those things don't last forever. So anyway, yeah. So humans scare me too, but the good thing about that is we tend to always be able to just flush them away, go around, pass, move on, get going, and then we leave them behind in the dust. So that's a good thing. Um, but yeah, I did.
so Keith's going with violent Sasquatch is his.
Yes, anything that can kill you. I mean,
Mine's gonna be probably, but you're a hunter.
well,
Well,
yeah,
like,
but
I mean, like you
with
said,
what I
hunting can
experienced
kill
last
you,
year
but
is
I mean, I don't.
having that happen, and you realize, heck, that's pretty close. That's right over there, somewhere pretty close.
Ooh.
And then you think, well, what if I was out there and I going to snatch the deer and get out of there, and then that thing is like watching me, and then I come up on it, and it just
I just at this point,
me.
it's like all those people that are like just waiting for the mothership. Like I just have questions. Like as soon as they show up, like I need to talk to them. I got stuff I want to know.
Yeah,
So like I think I just have a million things to ask them. But Flip does ask a good question. I don't think you've ever asked me this, Flip. No, I haven't had any experience where spirit doesn't have willingness or to interact with the client, but I will say as a little caveat that one of the instances that sometimes spirit withholds information is if they, from my experience with spirit, what I see often is if they've taken their own life, sometimes they will withhold information until they feel a little bit more comfortable to share it, because it is very upsetting to their friends and family members, even more so than a passing that's expected. So sometimes they'll withhold that a little bit, but they do relax generally and share bits and pieces. But I haven't had where they don't want to interact. But I will say that I've had clients and spirit that comes through that the client's like, oh my God, I didn't expect that person at all. And that's just part of being open-minded and seeing what comes through. So, but that's a good question. I don't think he's ever asked me that. And I love it. I love it, Robin. Tracy
that's
asked
an
me,
interesting question.
yeah, that you feel the most immense sense of peace. Um, yeah. Yeah. Usually this sort of thing, when is twofold, if I'm doing a reading and I have a little bit of interaction with someone's spirit team, like their guardian angels or spirit guides, that energy is really pure and beautiful. And other times, if I've done a really thorough job of an investigation where I validated all the spirits that I can at a location and I leave. And that's that sense of peace for me. So that's why I do what I do. I can't wait to keep doing it. So thanks for asking, Tracy. I love
That's
your
a
questions.
that's
And
a
I
pretty.
miss your face, Tracy. I miss your face too. Aw. Aw. I'm so glad we got to chat about some of these things tonight. And thank you to those people who chimed in and celebrated, came for the birthday show. It was just a Q&A because, it was time to chat. So I'm glad we did. Are you with me, buddy?
Oh yeah, I'm just looking at some of the questions and some of the stuff too as well. Um, Have you ever had a spirit though? That's and anybody that's in the chat, I mean, you can answer this. Robin's right there, Flip's right there. Do you ever have to where if you happen to ask, uh, and your the investigation's going well, the spirit box session is just rolling. Have you ever had the tendency to then stop and ask and say, you know, where where are you now? You know, can you look around and tell me, like where are you? A friend of mine, Mike Catchings, asked this question.
I like Mike a lot. I was so happy he came with you to the bash.
Yeah,
It was super fun.
and it's like he says, if you think you hear a heaven, it's like, okay, then like, but where is heaven? Is it just somewhere above us up so far? Is it, that it's another galaxy? It's off, just we can't even fathom where it's at all. Um, but you know, it's
Well, I mean, from my experience with spirit, it's another energy plane and it's about 3 feet higher than where we are. So a lot of times that's why we see apparitions floating. It's a different plane. It's oftentimes how when things are moved, they're on a different height. Like if spirit moves items, they're
Mhm.
on a different height than what they were, because it's a different plane, and our loved ones, are on a similar one. So theirs goes much higher if they so choose. But again, I take religion out of what I do. So whatever of side of the love and light you believe in, it's you know boundless. Really, it can be
Mike's
parallel right next to us. And
Mike's
hi,
uh
Mike.
Mike's
Leave
Mike's
in the
here, and
chat.
he's something to the fact about I'm here. Don't talk bad. Yeah, I try to hold my tongue. But Mike's had that really good question that I tend to all. That's very it's very interesting. We tend to. Um, I have asked and I have got responses as much as um, are you in heaven? And someone will say yes. And then you'll hear another spirit that's like, it's beautiful. Uh, Now, I have got the other response from like a male sounding. He was more of a grumpy, he certainly had a grumpy response that came through when I asked, where are you? And some time had went by. I had even asked that question much earlier, and I hear hell, and I was like, "Oh, he's telling me, he's telling me where he's at." And I thought uh, I was going to try to ask more, but I I said, "Well, that poor soul is going through enough right now. If you can imagine the torment or that they go through." And then I kind of left it alone. But it seems like I've realized that with the spirit boxes, with that question, there's not. I don't know if they're just not really supposed to. If that's like a taboo thing for them to do, they don't want to. They're not. They can't give a lot of intel, like when they're in angel school or they're there and they're like, okay, and they're like, one of the things you can't do is you can't be telling people about like where you're at. We all know we have free will. We do what we do here on Earth. We go but there are certainly some guidelines, and if we fall outside of those, you can certainly not wind up in the place you probably want to go to. And so that's why it goes back to faith. You have to have faith that I believe I'm going to lead a good life, and then I'm going to have my just reward. So
I don't know. I haven't had any spirits who say I can't tell you that.
yeah,
I haven't
they
had
just
any
it's like they go
spirits
silent.
do. I haven't had any spirits during a reading say their loved ones like I don't want to answer that. Like I said, sometimes it's that withholding if it's something that's going to be painful based on their experience or their passing, but it's not. It's only for the protection of the emotion of their loved ones, and they often do give that in a softer way. But I mean, I think from my experience with spirit, they aren't told that they can't tell us things. However, I also believe that a lot of them will step back and let us learn our human lessons and let
Right.
us make our human choices, because that's our path.
Right.
So, instead of saying we can't tell you, they're going to say, well, you weigh your decisions and you make your choice. And
Yeah.
so they won't necessarily intervene unless it's like a miraculous type experience that,
Yeah, they don't give you all the answers to the test. And
right.
and you speak about that road. The road they speak of is, if you have read the Bible, and I'm blessed. I found the time, I read through the whole Bible, and I will tell you, one of the things I learned is it does talk about that the road that we're pray to be on to heaven is a narrow one, and not all people make that path. A lot of people choose that wide path, and they just go on down, and they don't really care or believe, and it doesn't matter to them. Um, so I think there's that thing that they're like, I'll believe it when I see it. And the sad thing about that is once you're no longer, alive, and it's your soul that makes the journey, and then you go into a judgment, that you're like, at that point, there's no real deals. You don't get to go, hey, I know you. Remember, I went to church back in third grade with my mom. It's kind of too late, but I,
Well, like I said, I haven't really seen that be an issue as
right.
far as, people referencing that sort of thing. But this is another good way that you and I balance each other.
Mhm.
Because I do look at things in a spiritual perspective, and you're coming from, a Christianity background. So we can kind of relay in that way. And I can just share what I've, experienced with spirit. And Tracy, I think one of the most beautiful things of heaven, or the other side, as I word it, is from my experience with spirit, it's finally people taking time to do the things that bring them joy that they didn't have time to do on this side. So they'll talk about fishing, or being outside in nature, or cooking because they want to, not because they had 6 kids to feed. And that's another thing. I hope people take time to enjoy the things that they enjoy on this side, instead of waiting till they get to the other side. But I think
Yeah.
that's a beautiful thing. Um, and I have to catch
I
up on comments now
I
here. So
think,
it
when
says,
she asked that question, just quickly, I looked at it and I thought, if I had to answer that, it would be yes, you get to see your family members that are there, but the opportunity when you see Jesus, and then he actually welcomes you into the kingdom, and you know that you've made it, you're there. That would be that feeling of, it was so much all worth it to lead the good life, and
well,
that would.
and Flip's comment too about ITC, and I totally understand what he's saying. And here's my taboo. I was going to ask you what your taboo opinion was, but here's my taboo opinion. And it's okay. I will not twist anyone's arm or force you to believe what I believe. However, I don't believe, from my experience of a lifetime of reading for spirit, that any spirit is stuck. I do not believe we as humans have any capacity to help them transition one place or another, nor do they need our help. I think when they are on a plane to connect with us, like when we're investigating and coming through, or whether it's a loved one that comes through in a visitation or a dream, or whether it's a sign or symbol sent from them, or a glimpse of some sort of ghostly apparition in a place, they're choosing to interact with us at that time. So I have seen spirits that when they question the uh, integrity of the investigators, or the motivation of the investigation methods, I've seen spirits, literally, I see them with my eyes, and I think he's been there for a couple of times, where they just cross their arms and laugh, or they'll just roll their eyes, or they'll turn around and leave. So as a human who does not see those things, I can understand how some people may think, oh, maybe that spirit hasn't, is in between, or hasn't gone where it's to go. But I do not believe that that's an issue. Spirits, if you had boundless knowledge, what could we do for you?
Yeah.
I mean, they have the ultimate universal knowledge. So I could see how it would do that flip on some investigators, but honestly, um, I don't believe that they are. I don't. Some people say they can assist with that, and I don't believe that's necessary, nor can we do that as people.
I agree.
And Robin says she doesn't think that's an issue, had to be an issue either. And Tracy's other question: do you think we would be able to see the goodness in all people? Tracy, it's like you read my mind sometimes. Our loved ones on the other side often express in readings that they now have the understanding from that universal knowledge when they pass. They have the understanding that helps them comprehend why they made all the life choices they made when they were on this side, and why all their friends and family members made the life choices they did while they were on the side with them. So it eliminates a lot of the guilt, hostility, and miscommunication that we may have had on this side. It also relieves that tension of any argument because you have the ultimate understanding. You're not mad or you're not elated. You just understand. They're empathetic and they just understand. They have that knowledge. So that is a good thing, even if our decisions weren't necessarily good. So I believe that we can see that understanding from what Spirit shared with me. And
Yes.
I think that's a really beautiful thing. To try to be more open-minded already on this side is another thing I hope people take from that.
Tracy, you're so right. What a precious gift to receive. I've had my mom and my dad and my twin brother that have passed, and I just get that feeling that that's like this talks about, of just this beauty, this warmth, this. My sister-in-law actually saw Kevin in apparition one morning. She had been crying and saying, I just want to just let him know I love him. I just to say goodbye. And I had a situation that night where I came to my place and Kevin came to his, and we were right there like together. And I said it in my dream to Kevin. I said, you need to see Darla. You should say something to Darla. And so I go to sleep. I mean, the next morning at like 7:20, I see her on the identifier. It's Darla. And I said, well, I better know what this phone call is. And I was like, good morning. She goes, oh my God, guess what happened? And it was like 7:15. She's calling at 7:20. I was there and I was on the couch, and I guess I fell asleep watching TV, and oh my God, I sat up and I was watching, and he was there, and the puppies were barking towards where he was. And then I realized, I said, well, what happened? And she said, I saw about half of him from his belt line up really strong, and the rest was just kind of a what. But she said that he didn't really say anything with his mouth. He just was able to kind of look at her and just pass it through to her. And it was basically just pretty simple. And it was like just two little, I'm okay. And then I love you. And then it was just that little short bit. And then she said it was like there. And then it was just like and then he was just gone. And she said it was really exactly, if she had to get a response from him, what would make her happy. And that was exactly what she was asking. And I said, well, how do you feel now? And she says, I think I can move on. I think I can go on now. And so them having that return last visit with the one they were closest to give that crossing, be it crossing over, being it moving on, being it whatever it is that they're doing at that moment is indeed a beautiful thing, because we need that for our closure too. And I hope he's okay, hope she's okay, and then they tell us, and then there's that. So anyway,
anyhow, thanks everybody for hanging out.
Thanks everybody.
And thanks for the early birthday wishes. It's technically Friday, but I'm glad
That's all. Her birthday is Friday, so Friday.
I'm glad I could see your names in the chat.
Don't forget on the.
And Tracy and Robin and Flip and all the questions were just so awesome. Thank you.
I'm so glad we had this time together.
Me too. That's right. Well, everybody, I guess we are back again in 2 weeks. Not with a second birthday show with the next guest, but you'll catch that coming up pretty soon as far as that announcement. And yeah. Oh, thanks, Greg. Aw, love you guys too. Thanks for checking out the show and hanging out with us tonight and just having a good time. And I loved your questions. Thank you so, so much. And we hope you have a lovely rest of your week. And I think he had sugar or something before tonight.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll see you again.
Thanks everybody so much.
In 2 weeks. Good night, everybody. Bye-bye.